Hey, in this new mini devlog for my game called Caves of Umbra, I will show you how I design levels for this roguelike game. And now you might think there's no such thing as level design in roguelikes, because of the random level generation that is a big part of this game genre. But I use pre-designed chunks so the game doesn't feel too random. So in this video I'm showing you both how I create new chunks for the already existing abandoned mineshaft area and also the first chunks for a brand new biome. Let's get into it. Before I start talking about how I design these chunks, I might just want to explain the structure of a chunk to you. So one of these chunks in Caves of Umbra is a total of 7 blocks wide and 3 blocks high, which means this is the space that is available to me when designing a level part. On top of the randomly selected chunks, where I did also add the feature of some chunks being more common than others and some really rare, I randomized parts inside the chunk with these random block objects that I use when designing. All these things do is to pick one of the many given blocks in the list and then generate the chosen block at the position of itself. This is especially great when wanting to add variation in normal and slightly harder stones, dirt, or even resources. So let's begin with the design. I always start by blocking out an interesting situation or just some sort of idea for a structure that could fit the biome. This, for example, was the case with this little storage area because the biome is called abandoned mineshaft after all, and I think this fits pretty well. On the other hand, we got this, where a chest is simply inside a frame of spike blocks, so you must sacrifice a part of your health points to access the chest. The level design recipe for this mineshaft biome is pretty simple. I want to add a theme of structures hidden deep under the surface, and I want to create satisfying chain reactions. At the moment we have 2 blocks that create these chain reactions, the drill and the bomb block. So I think combining them in a row with the drills facing down shouldn't be too bad of a chunk. Just a simple thought process or idea like this can create a unique level part for this game. And sometimes I do have to be more on the simple side as well, because we need these chunks that I like to call fill chunks, as they do nothing else than just fill up some space so the level doesn't feel too overloaded and just only unique structures and really things that you can remember. This way everything would feel repetitive after some time, and that's just not the point of a roguelike game. These are in my opinion the best examples of something seeming to be very boring and useless, but in reality it's a very important key part of the game. The last one that is like interesting to talk about is this one, as I worked with a contrast of blocks, because these bone blocks above the cobwebs just take a single hit to break, but the cobwebs on the other hand are quite hard to get out of when stuck in them. The other option here is to mine right through the spike blocks, where you are going to lose some health points instead. And this is a pretty good conclusion for these chunks, as the whole point of level design is to make the player decide what they do next. It can be these alternative paths that I just talked about, but it can also be having to go past some resources and having to decide which one you can still mine and which you have to leave behind. So for the new jungle biome I have to do things differently, and this is because I add the first blocks of the biome in the process of the level design. I do have to say that this makes adding blocks so much easier. You notice if some block is missing when instantly integrating them into the chunks, and I can tell what block this is and even design it the way that it fits the theme of level design I want to go for. So for this new biome I don't want to spoil the next devlog, but the only thing that is important to know today is that I want to design the chunks a little more open with some little caves rather than filling in every single block. With this in mind, I decided to mainly use harder blocks which also fit the theme of a lush cave deep underground, and so I used the harder stone or slate as a base block. I don't really know what to call it at the moment. Please tell me which one you think fits more for this block, slate or hard stone variant. After this I thought of the visual variation we could add, so I made a slightly hidden monster block with a leaf overlay on top and also a mossy variation of the stone I just talked about. The only problem that we now have is that there are only hard stone types, so I added a moss block and later a gravity affected gravel block, which are both quite soft. In case you now want to find out more about how I really create new blocks, you can check out the last video where I added 4 new new ones to the Mineshaft biome. And so just using these blocks I created for the jungle biome, I slowly but surely added more and more detail to the chunks, and this is how the first chunks of a biome are born. Of course, we don't have any special blocks like the womp or drill in the jungle biome yet, but I might have some ideas and this will improve the chunks a ton when added. However, for now this is it when it comes to designing the levels for my roguelike game. I hope it was interesting for you to see how I handled this part of game development, and if you don't want to miss anything on Caves of Umbra in the future, you can of course subscribe to this channel, which would really mean the world to me. See you next time, cheers!